Back in the 1980s, I gave up the 3 child grooms I had grown up with, each destined to become a top elite in the military, political, and business worlds, and chose instead to marry Ryan Carter, a cold-faced man from the compound who was already divorced and raising 3 kids. My dad thought I had been possessed. After all, each of those 3 child grooms was exceptional in his own right. Any one of them seemed better than a middle-aged man with children from a previous marriage. But he didn't know the truth. In my past life, I married the military elite my father favored the most, Andrew Lewis. I brought with me a dowry worth a fortune. But Andrew's heart was always with his country. Just 1 month after our wedding, he died in an accident. I was devastated beyond words. Then came Peter Sullivan, a rising political star, who offered to marry me. I was filled with hope and joy and accepted. But on the day of our wedding, Peter was assassinated on the spot. While people accused me of bringing misfortune and even death to my husbands, Michael Evans, a renowned business magnate, stepped forward and married me in a grand ceremony, silencing all the rumors. But even Michael died on our wedding day, poisoned by an old enemy. 3 husbands, 3 deaths. I was branded a cursed woman. In the end, no one dared marry me. I lived out my life alone and miserable. But after my death, my spirit saw something that shattered me. Those 3 men who were supposed to have died had faked their deaths, and were now surrounding my stepsister, Emily, swearing their loyalty to her. Only then did I realize the person they had truly loved all along was Emily. They resented me for always picking on her, and to avenge her, they staged their deaths to deceive me. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to that day, when my father asked me whom I wanted to marry. Bookmark, go back. "You've always clung to Andrew since you were a kid," he said. "You'll probably choose little Andrew for the wedding next week, right?" Honestly, I agree. He's a solid pick. I suddenly screamed, startling him. In front of me stood not the frail, starving man from my past life, but my father in his full health and strength. Yet tears flooded down my cheeks without warning. In my past life, I had married 3 times, and with each dowry, I drained every cent my father had. In the end, the man who had once been a wealthy and respected healer died of starvation. Watching him now, frantically pulling out a handkerchief to wipe my tears, I couldn't hold back anymore. "Dad, I've made my decision. I want to marry Ryan Carter." My father leapt from his chair in shock. "What? You want to marry that divorced man with 3 kids? That's not acceptable." He was so stunned, he dropped his smoking pipe. "I picked out 3 child grooms for you. How can you not want even one of them?" I lowered my head and stayed silent. It wasn't that I didn't care about them. I still remembered their tragic deaths after marrying me. Those moments of grief and despair were burned into my memory. After a long pause, I finally said, "Dad, I want to marry Ryan Carter. I'm willing to honor the engagement made back then." The moment I mentioned the engagement, my father's expression shifted. No one had known that Ryan and I once had a verbal marriage agreement. But because the Carter family was powerful, Dad had worried I'd be mistreated after marrying in, so he found me 3 child grooms instead. Who could have imagined that those 3 would grow up into ungrateful traitors, white-eyed wolves who stole all our family's wealth and left the country with Emily to live a perfect, happy life, leaving us to fend for ourselves. Even at the moment of his death, my father had muttered that he wished he could eat just 1 more steamed cornbread bun. So in this life, I didn't want those child grooms who faked their deaths for my stepsister. I only wanted Ryan. After getting my father's approval, I stepped out of the study. Just outside, I saw the 3 of them, Andrew, Peter, and Michael, surrounding Emily, who was dressed in a white gown, laughing and joking with her. The moment they saw me, their laughter stopped. In the past, seeing that would have made me burn with shame. I would have lashed out at Emily in anger, only to anger the 3 of them in return. But this time, I didn't even spare them a glance. I turned around and went straight back to my room. As I closed the door, someone grabbed my wrist. "Didn't you hear Emily calling you?" It was Michael, staring at me angrily. Facing Andrew's furious face, I couldn't help but feel a flicker of disgust. The tension between us didn't bother Emily at all. With teary eyes, she dropped to her knees in front of me. "Sis, I never meant to steal your fiancé, but I couldn't control how I felt." Seeing me unmoved, Andrew suddenly picked her up in his arms. "That's enough, Emily. You did nothing wrong. If your family hadn't threatened me with a debt of gratitude for raising me, I would never have agreed to be some damn child groom." He turned to me coldly. "Let me tell you, Rachel, I will never marry you. The only person I truly love is Emily. If you really care about me, you should let me go." Seeing Andrew look so crazed for love made me feel a little confused. I clearly remembered that in my last life, Andrew didn't refuse to marry me, so why was he rejecting me now? Could it be he was reborn too? But even if he was, what did it matter? In this life, I would never have anything to do with any of them again. "Fine," I said, "I'll let you go." "You really mean that?" he asked, stunned. "I do," I replied calmly with a nod. But to my surprise, Andrew's face twisted into a look of deep sarcasm. "Rachel, do you really think I'm gonna fall for your lies again? What? Are you planning to drug me again like you tried to last year?" At the mention of drugging, Peter and Michael, who had been standing to the side, burst out laughing. "Yeah," Peter sneered. "Everyone in the compound knows our precious little miss here nearly went to insane lengths just to marry Andrew." Michael added with a mocking grin, "Didn't she almost trap him with that little drugging stunt at his birthday party?" Their harsh words made my face go pale. I'd explained 1,000 times that Andrew had been drugged at his birthday party by someone else, not me. But no matter how many times I denied it, they wouldn't believe me. They insisted I was obsessed with Andrew, and had tried to seduce him by force, hoping to tie him down with a scandal. I opened my mouth to defend myself again, but just then, I heard the butler's enthusiastic voice from the foyer. "Mr. Carter!" "What a surprise! What brings you here today?" The moment the name Ryan Carter was spoken, the expressions on all three of their faces changed instantly. Because, despite being called elites, none of them could compare to the real deal standing at the top. Ryan Carter. Before him, they didn't even have the right to be noticed. Without a word, and without even glancing at him, the three of them turned and slipped out from the other side of the massive villa in a hurry. I stood there, listening to the sound of Ryan's boots as they climbed the steps, and a strange nervousness rose in my chest. Why was he here? Did Dad inform him that quickly? While I was still wrestling with the thought, a beautifully wrapped box was handed to me. "For the wedding in 7 days," he said. "This is the dress I had made for you." I looked up in surprise, meeting the handsome face in front of me. "You agreed?" The corners of Ryan's lips curled into a smile. "Of course. I've admired you for quite some time, Miss Lynn." His words were clearly flirtatious, maybe even teasing, and yet for some reason, I almost believed him. My face flushed uncontrollably, and I spun around and darted back into my room. Even through the closed door, I could still hear his soft laughter echo in the hallway. Later, after I had calmed down, someone knocked on the door again. I didn't want to answer, but the person outside seemed especially persistent. In the end, I had no choice but to open the door in frustration. "What do you want now?" I snapped. "Why is it you again?" Andrew stood there, his brow furrowed so tightly it looked like it might snap. "Who else did you think it was?" "Rachel," he continued, "I've made up my mind. I'm gonna marry Emily. If you give us your blessing, I'm willing to still see you as my sister." "And what if I don't?" I asked. Andrew's eyes narrowed slightly, a dangerous glint flashing in them. "Then let me remind you, going against the three of us will do the Lynn family no good." I went cold all over. Of course. I knew better than anyone how much they cared about Emily. Hadn't I seen it all firsthand in my last life? "Fine," I said quietly. "I'll give you my blessing, but I want to know, how do you plan to repay my father for everything he did for you?" At that, Andrew's usually frosty expression actually softened a little. "I'll give up everything and take Emily away from here." I raised an eyebrow in surprise. I hadn't expected him to go that far for Emily. Andrew had climbed his way up in the military through real grit and discipline. Even the top brass had publicly praised him. But now he was saying he'd give all that up? Still, just because Andrew was willing, didn't mean Emily would be. My unexpected blessing seemed to earn me a rare moment of civility from him. "I know you liked me," Andrew said, "but it was Emily who saved us three when we were trapped in that snowstorm years ago. We swore to the heavens back then that we'd protect her for the rest of our lives." I stared at him, wide-eyed, almost unable to believe what I was hearing. A terrifying thought suddenly struck me. You mean, during the rescue mission, when there was that avalanche? He nodded. Yeah, that night, she defied everyone's warnings, climbed the snow-covered mountain alone, and risked her life to get us out. That's when I fell in love with her. The emotion in his eyes didn't seem fake. But I couldn't help it. I burst out laughing. What's so funny? He demanded. I'm laughing because all three of you are blind. You don't even know who actually saved your lives. No wonder your feelings changed so suddenly, all of you turning your backs on me to cozy up to Emily. So someone else had taken credit for what I had done. I shook my head with a bitter chuckle. Just remembered something, that's all. As I lowered my gaze, I caught sight of Emily walking over and nestling close to Andrew's side with that same calculated sweetness I remembered all too well. Andrew, can I talk to my sister alone for a moment? Emily asked sweetly. Andrew gave a doting nod and obediently went downstairs to wait. The moment he left, Emily's entire expression changed. Rachel Lynn, you're disgusting. Andrew has already decided to marry me, and you're still throwing yourself at him? What, scared they'll find out it wasn't you who saved them back then? Her pupils trembled. You know, she whispered. But she quickly regained her composure and let out a mocking laugh. So what if you do? They already believe it was me who saved them. Rachel Lynn, you were born to be my stepping stone, just like your pathetic mom. I stared at her, eyes wide, my voice shaking. What do you mean? Emily raised a brow smugly, a twisted smile playing on her lips. You don't even know how easy your idiot mother was to manipulate. I casually mentioned I was 3 months younger than you, and she lost her mind and jumped off a building. Honestly, we should thank her for dying so quickly. If she hadn't, my mom wouldn't have taken her place so easily. I couldn't hold back the fury exploding in my chest. I raised my hand and slapped her hard. But just as my palm was about to land, she let out a smug laugh and threw herself backward. A terrible sense of dread surged through me. With a sharp scream, Emily tumbled down the staircase. Andrew rushed over and knelt at her side in a panic, but Emily gently placed her hand on his cheek, whispering, Andrew, don't blame my sister, it's my fault. I stole you from her. She has every right to be upset. Peter and Michael charged into the room. The moment they saw Emily lying there, barely breathing, their eyes turned red with rage as they stared at me with hatred. I collapsed to the ground, shaking my head, repeating over and over, it wasn't me, she fell on her own. But all I got in return was Andrew's cold, bitter smile. I thought you'd learned your lesson. I thought you understood that love can't be forced. But clearly not. He turned to Michael. Lock her in the isolation room. Until I say otherwise, no one is to let her out. Cradling Emily in his arms with a face full of anguish, Andrew turned and walked away. I, overwhelmed and powerless, was dragged away in tears. They threw me into a tiny, suffocating isolation room. The cramped space made my heart pound wildly, my breath growing short, my face flushed and hot. They knew full well I had claustrophobia. But for Emily, they ignored my life-threatening fear. The panic spread through my body like poison. My breathing slowed, shallowed. I truly thought I was going to die. Just as I was losing consciousness, the isolation room door was kicked open with a violent crash. Before everything faded, I heard the rapid pounding of combat boots coming closer. When I opened my eyes again, the blinding overhead light pierced through me. My father's face